She lost her grandmother. I think our prayers are with her during this difficult time. We will ensure that we support her in whatever means necessary so that she can go through this difficult period. You will advise us when Advocate MTB has joined. Are there any further apologies?
Chairperson?
Yes.
No apology, just from our side as well. Our condolences to the Honourable, now a surname as well, and tough on my tongue, but our new member.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Horn.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Glynis.
Honourable Bredenbach.
Thanks. If Vanani could perhaps just send us her cell number so we could send her a message.
Yeah, thank you. That will be appreciated. Vanani will do that.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bredenbach. Advocate MTB, are you connected?
I am connected, Honourable Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You're welcome, and you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable Chair, honourable members, thank you so much for the opportunity for us as SIU to present the annual report. The presentation is projected. Just for the honourable committee to note, I'm joined by the members of our executive committee. I won't go through them one by one, but just specifically to render an apology for the head of human capital, Ms. Mashego. She got the bereavement in the family yesterday. So she is not in a position to join. She would normally present the human capital part. So I will present that part. And we are also joined by, as asked and requested by the Honourable Committee, we are joined by the Chair of the Audit Committee. She has prepared a few notes, but she will make those notes at the part where we're dealing with the audit issues, Honourable Chair, if that is acceptable.
That is acceptable, Advocate MTB.
Thank you very much.
At this time, please accept our deepest condolences on behalf of the committee to Ms. Mashego.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. We really appreciate that. Okay, we can go to the next slide, Ms. Mpotulo. Honourable Chair, this is really the table of contents. We're summarizing our performance, year-on-year performance, as we indicated, Auditor General's year-on-year opinion, the legislative mandate, strategic overview, and then the SIU outcomes. We do a lot of stakeholder engagements, which we also outline, performance management by program, and proclamations and investigations, presidential reports, civil litigation report, governance report, human capital, the finance report, and the performance and spending of 2021-22 to date, and progress made on key SIU strategic focus areas. So without further ado, Chair, I'll proceed.
Advocate Mutibi.
Yes.
I think you know that members of the committee, they read diligently.
I know. Oh, yes, yes.
So we have gone through your report.
Okay, Chair.
So we will give you 50 minutes to present.
5-0, okay.
And then 5 minutes that will that will be given to the chair of the audit committee. So all in all, it will be 55 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. It's 9:35 on my watch, so by 20 past, we should be done. Thank you very much. We'll appreciate that. Chair, the next slide, which is slide number 4, as the honorable members would have seen, we are doing a year-on-year comparison of the performance stats compared to 1920 and 2021. On the right-hand side is 2019-2020, which shows that we had performed and achieved 69% of our performance targets. 31% was not achieved. In the year under report, 2022-21, we achieved 75% of our targets and 25% not achieved. And we'll briefly outline all of those that were not achieved. Next slide, please. This slide, Chair, shows really the core business comparison of performance. And as you can see, we're tracking the performance from 2017, 2018 to the year under review, which is 2020, 2021. Chair, as you indicated, the honorable members would have seen that we have achieved 100% of the core business operations targets. Just 2.1, which is the rent value of potential cash on the assets to be recovered. We've achieved that by 818 million, and the annual target was 148. So we have exceeded the percentage by 453%. Chair, upfront, let me just indicate, and we have prepared the main contributors to this achievement and exceeding the targets. On this one, the contribution to overachievement resulted from the Proclamation R23 of 2020. This is the PPE investigations, which produced a whole number of outcomes. And there, the potential cash to be recovered amounts to about 202 million. Added to that is the Department of Human Settlement investigation in the Free State, R29 of 2019, where we have freezed about 300 million. So all of those would have been investigations that contributed, amongst other investigators. We just picked out the high numbers of those who contributed. So, Chair, those would have been some of those contributors. On the rent value of actual cash and or asset recovered, as you can see there, Honorable Chair, the target was 60 million, but we recovered 1.8 billion and exceeded by that percentage there. The highest contributor there, Chair, was the recovery that we made from our ESCOM investigation. We reached an agreement with the company called ABB, which was investigated at ESCOM, and they paid into the ESCOM account about 1.6 billion. And for that year, that would have now contributed to us overshooting the target. 2.3, rent value of contracts and administrative decisions, actions set aside or deemed invalid. The target was 900 million. Again, we overshot the target by about 697% and to 7.1 billion. There, the contributor again came from ESCOM, where there was a contract which was cancelled between ESCOM and a contractor based on the SIU investigation, and that contract value was 6.9 billion. Another contributor came from the Gauteng Department of Health under the PPE investigation, which was about 139 million. So those were the main contributors, just to really take the honorable committee keeping them informed. Rent value of potential loss prevented. There, the target was 300 million. Again, we overshot to 2.7 billion. The contributor there was a contract which was cancelled again from the ESCOM investigation, That contract was valued at about 2.6 billion. So that contributed to the overshooting of the target. Number of referrals made for disciplinary action, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. The target was 150. We again overshot to 5,749. Again, the contribution came from the ESCOM investigation, where we referred about 5,540 employees there for the conflict of interest, and we required ESCOM to take action against those. There's other referrals in other investigations. Number of referrals made for executive on administrative action. We again overshot the number to 41,000. The contributor there came from the National Department of Transport investigation, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, where the investigations has uncovered a fraud of driver's licenses of the deceased persons that are being used fraudulently at the moment or at the time of the investigation. And we've sent all of those driver's licenses, referred them to the provincial departments for cancellation of those licenses. So that's the administrative action that's required to be taken. Another contributor really again came from ESCOM, where we asked for companies that have been found to have irregularly gained the contracts there to be blacklisted. So those are the biggest contributor there is the cancellation of the driver's licenses emanating from the National Department of Transport investigation. Number of referrals to the prosecuting authority, the target was 200. Again, we overshot by almost 200, 435 was the actual. There, the contributor came from the PPE investigations, R23 of 2020, where we have referred more than 132, made 132 referrals to the NPA over and above other referrals that we've made. So that contributed to us exceeding the target. Number of investigations closed under a published proclamation. Again, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, as we always explain, that under a particular proclamation, there would be various focus areas. And when each focus area is closed, it's then counted as a number of investigation closed. In this case, the biggest contributor came from the National Department of Transport, where about 40,000 focus areas were closed. So that was the contributor. And the rand value of matters in respect of which evidence was referred for institution or defense of civil proceedings. Honorable Chair, you can see there that the target was 1.6 billion, but the actual is 64 billion. What contributed there was the civil proceedings that we instituted at Transnet, the 1064 trains matter. That civil proceedings, that civil suit on its own, it's worth 54 billion. So that contributed to us overshooting the target, and the number of reports submitted to the president, we just made the target of 15. So Chair, I really spent this few minutes on this slide so that the committee is brought into context on what would have been the contributor. So this really just indicates how undulating or fluctuating the kind of business we are in. In one particular year, you may find that a specific proclamation gets specific outcomes that gives us, quite a number of outcomes. And in the next year, it might be different. So I think that's really the context that I would like to take forward to the Honorable Chair and Honorable members. Next slide, please. Next slide, Chair. This slide is really about the clean audit that we have managed to maintain 5 years in a row. I will not go in detail on this, but I'm sure the Chair of the Audit Committee will also make a repeat in her 5 minutes to the Honorable Committee. Next slide, please. Slide number 8. We refer to the constitutional and legislative mandate, which the committee is well familiar with. Those are in pages 18 to 19 of the annual report, and the strategic overview is also on page 17 of the annual report. That includes our vision and mission, which, Honorable Chair and Honorable members, we have set out. We have set out the strategic review on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of December. We will go through this, and if it's still relevant during looking at the environment in which we operate, we will review and amend if necessary, but if not necessary, we'll keep it. And then the executive team is also referred to. Next slide, please. Honorable Chair, this slide really refers to the key SIU outcomes of the year of the 5-year strategic plan. This is the strategic plan of 2021, 2020 to 2024, 25. And these outcomes, as indicated in the annual report on page 25, the details of the outputs that are contained in the annual performance plan are outlined in the annual report, but they would also be in the APP, and this is cascaded internally into the operational plans of each and every executive, and they cascade down to the plans of the business units in the SIU, and we monitor the operational plans and review them every quarter. Chair, without really going into detail, we would like on outcome 1, we want SIU to be a compliant, high-performing organization which is well capacitated to assist in the government and society ridding it of corruption and maladministration. Outcome 2, we ensure that out of our business, state assets and cash resources are protected from maladministration, fraud, and corruption. Outcome 3, we would like to contribute to the confidence in the government systems, structures, and policies of the state from the public. And outcome number 4 really focuses on the prevention side of the fight against corruption. Slide number, next slide. This slide really just deals with the stakeholder engagements that we hold throughout the year, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. I'll not go through that in detail, but as the members would have seen, some of those focus on the forums that we have created as part of our work in the anti-corruption task team. For example, the Health Sector Anti-Corruption Forum, which focuses, amongst others, on the investigations, but also on the prevention side of our work. These forums include business, it includes civil society, and we have seen that they really add value. And as part of that, we also host webinars to members of the public where we raise awareness around the work that we do. Next slide, please. Slide number 12, Chair, Honorable Chair and Honorable members, without repeating, it's really a different depiction of the slide that we went through out of the core business performance highlights. Honorable Chair, I've already gone through that. I'll not really repeat it. And then with your permission, I'll proceed forward. The next slide deals with performance per budget program. We use program 1, which is the support services, program 2, which is the core business, of course, also supported by program 3, which is also part of the core business. And then the next slide, Honorable Chair, again, with your guidance that the honorable members would have read the report, program 1, which is on slides number 14 to 18, deals with the administration part, which is the support services. And Chair, as you would have seen, I'll go to the last slide of that program, which is slide number 18, and I will deal with which one are the areas that we have not achieved. Firstly, it's the vacancy rate, which the Honorable Committee has always implored us to work hard to achieve. We have really just for this year under review, we have achieved 15%, and the target was 14%. So, and the work is underway as we sit today. The recruitment process, we've made several appointments. It's just that they came after the financial year. So in the next reporting cycle, we would be reporting an achievement of this target. Another target that we have missed is the performance agreement, again, which the Honorable Committee and particularly the Honorable Chair has really implored us to make sure that we achieve that target, because we cannot run an organization where there's no base which is articulated by performance agreements. But Honorable Chair and Honorable members, I'm delighted to report that as we report today, we have reached 100%. All the employees in SIU have signed performance agreements. It's just that it happened after the financial year end, but all the consultation with the trade union has happened now. We've signed all the agreements. We're really delighted to report that. And then the other one is the implementation of stakeholder survey recommendations. This is the stakeholder survey that we did 2 or so years ago, but we are in the process of ensuring that we implement the views and that we received from various stakeholders. This is really to ensure that we continue to meet the expectation of our stakeholders, and we will continue to implement that. Another area, which is again an important area, the implementation of the Ict Plan. We are engaging with the ICT executive, the Chief Information Officer, in conjunction with the ICT committee. As of to date, there is a project that is overseen by the ICT committee, which has been presented to me. We just have to make sure that that plan is executed so that the ICT needs of the organization can be met. And on the next reporting cycle, Chair, we are envisaging that we should be reporting positively in this regard. Program number 2, if you go to the next slide, Honorable Chair, again, I'll adopt a similar approach with the view that the members would really have gone through the slides, and we can take questions at the end. The investigations and the legal counsel are covered in slides 19 to 24. 19 to 24, and again, the slide that dealt with the outcomes, which I really spent some time on, and where we have exceeded the targets, really deals with this program too. This program, as you can see in the pie chart on slide number 24, slide number 24, please. This one shows that we have achieved 100%. We are delighted with this because this is where really our work, the impact of our work is largely resulting from this program. Of course, it's supported by program 1 and ensuring that program 3 also supports this, but this is really where the impact is felt and where our outcomes are really maximized. The next program, which is Market Data Analytics and Prevention. This is the result of the new strategy, which is almost due for review, where we have said we would like to implement the market data analytics and the prevention work. These are covered in slides number 25 to slide number 30. Honorable Chair, again, just concentrating on the outcome, on the pie chart, slide number 30. The pie chart indicates that we achieved 67% and 33% non-achieved. The 33% is actually made up of two areas. The number of annual corruption and maladministration trend reports. We wanted to conduct this trend report so that we can see as an organization what is the survey telling us. But we have realized in this regard that the overall JCPS wanted to conduct this survey. So we held back a bit because to just do a survey as one agency would, although we wanted to do it for the overall public, but we really just thought it appropriate that let's give the opportunity to the JCPS program where we will contribute so that the overall trend analysis is conducted, which would be championed by the GCIS. But we will really monitor that process because it's very important that we get the trend analysis over and above the ones that we get, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, from the likes of Transparency International. It's important that we conduct those as well. And the data analytics capacity is one of the areas that contributed to non-achievement. And that part, as members would have seen in the explanation for the non-achievement, really relates to the readiness of the IT infrastructure. We didn't really want to just implement this data analytics because it also includes the modeling and so on without the readiness of the infrastructure. That is also now being attended to. The Program 3, the Chief Program Portfolio Officer and the Chief Information Officer are working together to ensure that that is achieved. But in this regard, Honorable Chair, we might need to record that while we are getting the SIU infrastructure ready, there is also some work that is happening in the data analytics space, in the work that we do in the ACTT. In particular, in the Infrastructure Anti-Corruption Forum, Infrastructure Build Anti-Corruption Forum. There's a work that we are doing there in consultation or in partnership with the Human Sciences Research Council, where we are going to use their capacity to model the data, and we will use those learnings also as SIU so that they can also contribute to the data analytics capacity that we would like to grow. I'd like to proceed without further ado. The next slide really deal with the proclamations. And if I go to slide 32, slide 32, Honorable Chair, just indicates, slide 32, please, indicates the proclamations that have been issued for the period under review. The proclamations range from National, Western Cape, Northwest, Free State, National, Limpopo, and Northwest Province again. They count up to 9. And there are the state institutions on the right-hand side. Honorable Chair, in view of the proclamations that keep on coming because of the allegations, the huge number of allegations that we are getting, we thought it appropriate just to show the Honorable Committee a year-on-year growth in proclamation, and that is shown on slide number 33. Slide 33. Slide 33, Honorable Chair, just shows that there's a huge increase in proclamations. It counts up to 105% increase, which is really quite huge. A related item to that is that as the business goes up, we are also capacitating from a resource point of view, and that will be shown in the human capital presentation that we have included. The next slide, presidential report. Presidential report, it's 15 as we have reported. The next slide, please. Next slide, it's the cases that have been issued at the special tribunal. As we have always said, Honorable Chair, the special tribunal has really proven to be a most important forum to help speed up the civil litigation and other activities that lead to the recovery process, which are your restraint orders, which is the preservation orders and so on. We have seen that it has really brought an impact and is making a difference. So all these cases are included in slides number 35 to number 38. This would then be up to slide number 38, and they all count up to 40 with the contract value of 5.1 billion. Honorable Chair, as we have said, these are the cases that are underway. Some of them would have been heard and we're waiting for judgment and so on. But we have seen in the space of the preservation orders and freezing of assets, freezing of pensions, that has really had an impact that we required. Honorable Chair, slide number 39. Slide 39 deals with the cases instituted in the High Court. Although from the outcomes of our investigation, we take matters to the special tribunal, there are those other parties who are involved in our cases. If they feel that they want to challenge our reports, they would then go to the High Courts, and then we defend our matters appropriately. For example, is the first matter on slide 39, and the second one. The third one really relates to Nelson Mandela Bay. This is where the matter was also held in the High Court in the Eastern Cape. It relates to the tablets that were procured by the Department of Education there. But we've got 3 matters on this slide, Chair, but I need to put it on record that that case in Transnet, I think, and we really need to apologize, it should have been included here. The case where we have instituted, it has been instituted in the High Court, Chair. And the reason for that is that our Chief Legal Counsel and the Legal Counsel at Transnet, they went through forward and backward, and ultimately a decision was made to institute that matter in the High Court. But our preference is going forward that this matter should be instituted in the special tribunal. The next slide. The next slide, Honorable Chair, I really won't spend a lot of time on them. It's around the governance. We are really delighted that with the advent of the new strategy and the new processes that we have put in place, we have seen a significant improvement positively in the governance of the organization. We really put forward clean governance. And the next bullet point is about the corporate governance framework that we have put in place. The next bullet point, the third one, in summary, it points to the combined assurance that has been put in place, which is really overlooked by our Chief Audit Executive. We are glad that that is showing the results. The next slides, 42 up to 44, is around the parliamentary committees that we appear. I will not go through that in detail. And then slide number 45 is the internal governance structures, which we are glad that they are all functioning as intended. Slide number 46 is about our risk management. There, in summary, Chair, we are really seeing a huge improvement in the risk management process of the organization. The bottom paragraph there says the SIU managed to achieve level 5 of the risk maturity, but we are striving to achieve level 6 of the National Treasury risk maturity model. The next slide really shows the top risks, top strategic risks that we are monitoring. I'm delighted to report that none of this risk has really realized. So because we've put controls in place to ensure that we mitigate them. it's just top risk number 5, which I really want to emphasize: the preparedness to respond to the physical threats to investigators and security breaches. In this regard, Honorable Chair, in the next review of top risks, we would like to add on there the protection of witnesses and whistleblowers. This was focusing on the investigators, and we will put in place measures to ensure that when whistleblowers and witnesses are involved, we put in place measures that are to protect them. And the last one, which is top risk number 11, which I've already addressed, around the ICT services in the organization, we will ensure that they are addressed. Slide number 48 is the business continuity management, which we are satisfied really that is working well. In the main, we've been preoccupied with ensuring that the business continues during the COVID-19. If you can see on the extreme right, we've got number of cases and the recovery rate. And thankfully, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, we've not experienced fatalities. Honorable Chair, at this stage, slide number 49 deals with the fraud and anti-corruption plan and the management of the conflict of interest internally. We are happy that we are really managing that space appropriately. I'll go to slide number 50, and at this stage, just pause a bit and give the audit chair an opportunity to really just spend a few minutes on the slides, and then I'll carry on, go to the human capital part. Ms. Nandi Madiba, I hope you are on the platform. Please come in and take the honorable committee through.
Good morning, Chairperson of the committee. Your honorable seat is greeted together with the entire committee that you have. All protocols observed, and I greet all the participants, whether virtually connected or physically in attendance. Chair, I would like to greet indicating that in terms of the presentation that had been already covered by the HOU, I'm covered to a large extent, and within the 5 minutes allocated, I'll be able to just cover some points that relate to the roles and responsibilities of the audit committee. As the committee appreciates that the audit committee is actually regulated per section 27.1 of Treasury Regulations, as well as PFMA Act number 1 of 1999. What I can also indicate is the fact that the committee has its own independence, even though HOU is the accounting authority. In terms of getting the cooperation from him as the oversight over us as well, while we are guiding the HOU as well in terms of oversight, we are able to get his support, guidance, and cooperation in terms of all matters that are at a strategic level under his office. The committee's independence is also evidenced by the fact that the 4 members that make up the committee are all independent members. I am currently chairing the committee. In terms of attendance, we have all attended all meetings, and all reporting had actually taken place for all quarters, with decisions taken with a meeting that has got a full quorum. The committee had considered all activities that are on its mandate, and within its purview, it has dealt with internal controls, as well as risk management, information technology, performance information, external audits, and its independence was actually dealt with in terms of the external auditors, in this regard being the Office of the Auditor General SA. We have dealt with the annual financial statements and financial information, both in terms of interim results during the quarter, all 4 quarters, as well as the annual results, which have already been covered in terms of the results that Auditor General had expressed a view on. Hence the clean audit that the unit has actually obtained. And the outcome has already been indicated in that table that the HOU had presented. So I'm not gonna go back to the analysis of that table, but all I can say is that as part of our duties, we have actually analyzed the audit outcomes, And we have also looked into how the organization is responding to any audit findings that the Auditor General had actually presented. However, if those findings were material, we wouldn't have obtained an unqualified as well as clean audit opinion. And therefore, it shows that management had responded to such even during the previous years. I would like also to consider a part that is giving assurance to us internally, as well as giving support to the HOU and his team, the internal audit unit. Our internal audit unit is co-sourced. We've got internal employees as well as a contracted firm that is working hand in hand with the internal employees. What is important though is from the audit committee point of view, we have executed our role in terms of ensuring that there is a 3-year rolling plan, which is also having an annual plan based on the risk profiling of the organization. And those risks have already been covered by the HOU. I'm not gonna go there, but all I can indicate is that the plan is based on the risk profile of the organization. And in terms of the audits that had been conducted, as they are indicated on the slide, the internal audit has covered all the audit areas as approved by the audit plan. And based on those audits which were completed during the financial year, the overall conclusion on the status of internal controls to mitigate risks as identified is that the controls are adequate, but some were not wholly effective, but were partially effective in achieving their purpose and ensuring that the unit's objectives were achieved. Where we refer to the controls being partially effective, we are not saying it was a displacement to have identified them, but the effectiveness of those controls is also dependent on the environment within which those operations are actually taking place and may not necessarily be in control of staff. We were actually also concerned, as the committee was concerned, in relation to the positions that needed to be filled, which again is a matter that the HOU has already addressed. And I'd like to move to the next slide. Am I still audible, Chair?
You are audible, but I must bring
Okay.
to attention that you are over your 5 minutes. I will take that the extra time from the from Advocate Mthibi's time.
I will just finish, Chair, in the next 2 minutes. And in the next 2 minutes, Chair, I would like to emphasize the point that as the audit committee, we have also fulfilled our responsibilities in looking into performance information, as well as ensuring that risk management, governance, and internal controls are actually taking into account all the strategic objectives of the organization, including the ICT modifications that are required, taking into account the cyber risk that is affecting all entities and all institutions globally. And in closing, Chair, I would like to indicate that the risk of stress that the HOU has already indicated are being considered internally as well. And from the audit committee point of view, we are also giving our advice that is necessary in terms of mitigating those risks. And in terms of the overall audit outcome, we know that there's a risk in terms of retaining the crown in ensuring that for the future years, there is no regression, and also managing the stakeholder relations. And part of the stakeholder relations management is the fact that no one wants to be investigated, and that impacts on our bottom line in terms of the people not paying their bills because they will be making excuses about not knowing about approvals of such investigations. It's a matter that I know that previously we've also alluded to when we're speaking to the committee in regard to revisiting the business model so that we are not held hamstrung by those institutions that would not want to honor the debts when we have actually concluded the audits. Having said so, I would like to appreciate the cooperation by the SIU in terms of the HOU as head and the staff in supporting us to be effective as the audit committee, and would like to thank the committee for giving us an opportunity to present our oversight outcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Can we see your face so that we know that you're not a robot?
Chair, I did switch it on and I didn't realize that it wasn't showing on your side. It therefore means it must have been the way I had set up my connection, because even now I've actually opened the camera. I don't know if on your side you are unable to see me.
No, we're not able to see you, but it's fine. Let's proceed.
Right.
Advocate Mtibi, she was over by 3 minutes. That will be
Thank you,
taken
Chair.
over.
I'll try to recover the time. Thank you. Honorable Chair, we'll move to the human capital slides, and I won't spend a lot of time on that, as the honorable members would have read. This slide really just focuses on various aspects. Would like SIU to be the employer of choice. Second paragraph, looking at the staff establishment so that we achieve the highlighted part on the third paragraph, improve capacity. We want to create a do culture in the organization so that, and that is supported by the performance agreement system that we have put in place, 100% performance agreements. Chair, the transformation agenda is continuing, and that is supported by the employment equity stats that we are supporting. And Chair, just to report on that same slide, 43 interns have been converted into full-time junior forensic investigators. This really alleviates youth unemployment. We are delighted about that. Slide 53, these are the focus areas of human capital going forward. On the left bottom side, resourcing, entrenching the do culture, performance management system, learning and development, remuneration strategy, and sound labor relations. Our staff complement at the moment, Honorable Chair, 532, 509 are full-time permanent, and 23 are fixed-term contracts. Vacancy rate, as I indicated, we are sitting at 15% compared to the planned 14%, which we will definitely achieve. Staff turnover is 2.6% compared to last financial year of 4%. We are satisfied that is showing a downward trend. Next slide, again, deals with the vacancy rate. I won't repeat that. The next slide is the staff complement, which I've really covered and indicated that the staff turnover is of 2.6%. The slide indicates the work that we've done in assessing the performance levels in the organization. Next slide, slide 56. Slide 56 shows really that is an analysis which shows that we've got a high performing organization which average sitting at about 84.2%. And that leads me to the next slide, which is the bell curve. Generally in human capital management, there's this bell curve that you watch as an organization. The normalized bell curve would be the red line, but we are sitting more on the extreme right, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, but it is not unusual for a high-performing organization, which SIU has demonstrated to be. Our human capital experts at the Human Capital Committee has also confirmed this view. Slide number 58, we have ensured that similar to what we've done in the previous year, but on a really measured way, that we issue out performance rewards to our members. Next slide, personnel costs by level. I really won't go through that. As you can see there, for this year, annual personnel expenditure was about 431K compared to 436% in previous financial year. The next slide is the workforce profile compared to the what they call EAP. I think it stands for economically active population. This is more around the employment equity stats, Honorable Chair. I won't really spend time on that. The next slide really just indicates that we are really focused on ensuring that we operate in a sound employee relations organization. And these are some of the few incidents that we are dealing with to ensure that grievances, misconducts are dealt with. Next slide is learning and development. As we improve on our resourcing, we want to ensure that the learning and development supports the skills that we require. And the program is going very well. I'm going to just hand over to the CFO, who would really just make sure that he also summarizes his part. CFO, please bear in mind the time and summarize to the audit, to the honorable committee, please.
Thank you, Advocate. I will really just spend time on the summary, and this slide, Honorable Chair and members, is really just the summary of our financial affairs. So generally, the financial state of affairs are quite positive. First of all, over the last 10 years or so, the SIU has managed to build up an accumulated surplus in the balance sheet, also called the Statement of Financial Position, to the tune of 836 million. And the majority of that is reflected in the bank balance, positive bank balance of 742 million. So despite the challenges that we are still experiencing in recovery of debt, we have managed and we are in a sound cash flow position. The current ratio, important ratio when one considers any company or entity, is at year end, it's 4.6 to 1. A strong current ratio is normally considered to be 2 to 1, so we more than double that. For the year, the lockdown year, which was a very difficult year for a period of a month and a half or so, the operations did not work full out because of the lockdown. We still managed to reflect a surplus of 68 million. And then very importantly, we always look at the cash flow and the net cash flow from operating activities. We still managed to reflect a positive 13 million. Next slide, I won't cover. It is already, that's the balance sheet, the statement of financial position that shows you on the asset side, the 742 million, and the net total assets, then the net assets, the accumulated surplus, 836 million. Next slide, which shows it's the income statement or the statement of financial performance, 68 million surplus for the year. Next slide. Cash flow, in the middle of the page, the 13 million net cash flow from operating activities. Next slide. Not going to go into this. This is just the comparison of actual versus budget, and the explanatory notes are contained in the annual financial statements. Thank you. Next slide. The net trade debtors, as I've said, that's really the only challenge. If you look at the gross debt, on the top of the page, 2021, 619 million, more or less equally split amongst the tiers of government. However, when we look at the provision for doubtful debt, the biggest provision in comparison is we do in the local government, the municipalities. So we make a provision for about 430 million, bringing our net trade debtors then to 189 million. So we have not written this off yet, but we are making provision for that in line with generally recognized accounting practices. Next slide. We were just requested also to reflect quickly on the half-year results for 2022. Next slide. In the income statement, slightly under on the revenue side with regards to project income, around about 27, 28 million under. But we are working hard in the second or the third and the fourth quarters in order to try and catch that up. On the expenses side, we still have positive variances, especially in salaries and traveling because of lockdown. And therefore, we reflect for the 6 months ended 30 September a surplus of 43 million versus a budget of 18 million. So that's positive. Next slide. Not going to go through the explanatory notes. Next slide. Next. Honorable Chair and members, this is a reflection with regards to where we currently standing with our MTEF budget. So you would see that we are reflecting for the next 3 years from 22 onwards a deficit budget. The main reason for that is because we are growing our HR headcount quite aggressively to meet the incoming proclamations. So we've got a deficit of 17 million, 90 and 177. National Treasury, as per the PFMA, has approved it, but subject to the fact that the SIU must fund it out of our own resources. On the income side, however, I want to bring to the attention of the committee that we have been cut, and we can go to the next slide, quite materially over the last 3 years.
Sorry, CFO. There are
Okay.
two hands here, Honorable Judge and Honorable Swart and Honorable Jelle. Are those point of orders?
No, no, Chair, it's a hand ready to speak.
Same as Chair. Hand to speak later. Thank you.
Okay. No, they are left with 4 minutes. Remember, the head had up to 25 past and was for the chair of the audit unit who used her time. So it was all in all, it was supposed to end at 5:30. So they're left with 4 minutes.
It's well understood, Chair. Well understood.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Proceed.
So this is the last slide. Chair, just to bring to the attention that over the last 3 years and going into MTF, National Treasury has cut the SIU materially. They apply the cut rule to everybody. We don't believe in the environment that we are in fighting fraud and corruption that we should be painted with the same brush. But these are the cuts. We just wanted to bring that to the attention of Treasury, around about 150 million over the period. Thank you, Chair and members. I think that was my last slide.
Thank you very much, Sepo.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. With your permission, I'll take over and I'll just focus on these slides because there was a request that we also provide the Honorable Committee with the year-to-date performance stats. As the Honorable Committee can see there that by Q2, we had achieved 71% and about 29% still to be really covered. We are well on track to ensure that we meet our performances. And then I'll slide to the last two slides on the progress made on key strategic focus areas without reading through them. These focus areas over the 5 years have really ensured that we position the organization such that it makes and executes its mandate, make sure that its impact is really appropriate, and we produce the results, the positive results that is expected by the Honorable Committee and the public. Honorable Chair, just to conclude, we did not mention in the presentation itself, but in the report, there are ongoing proclamations. In the part on the proclamations, we didn't cover the ongoing ones, but they are covered on pages 69 to 71 of the annual report. Those are on the national proclamations, provincial, local government and state-owned entities. Honorable Chair, we stand ready at any time where the Honorable Committee could call the SIU to come and just in detail give an update of any of those ongoing investigations, in particular the ones that we've given when we appeared, Master's Office, State Attorney, and the court buildings and so on. There's been quite progress been made. Of course, we can't go into it in detail for purposes of today, but we are ready at any point where the Honorable Committee could call us to come and give an update on those ongoing investigations. We appreciate the opportunity, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Advocate Ntivi, and to your team. I think for the first time you finished right on time. In fact, before time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
It's part of the 75% performance.
No, thank you.
No, thank you very much. And we do appreciate, and I think we take the invitation quite seriously for you to come back and present on the investigations that you are doing. I will now note the following members: Honorable Janji, Honorable Swart, Honorable Jere, Honorable Horn, Honorable Vermani Vogt-Drachens, and Honorable Breitenbach, in that order. Honorable Janji, over to you.
Maybe they can remove the thank you slide. Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I just want to raise 3 critical things, Chair, and I'll be very brief, but maybe as a start to welcome the report of the SIU and to thank Advocate Tibi and his team for the dedicated work they continue to do for this important institution. The report seems to demonstrate to us that when you attach importance to this institution, this is what it can do. It really goes very far in that regard. So I want to welcome and thank them for this sterling work for the country. It's really a country issue. But perhaps as I thank them, Chair, there are three areas that I would like them to speak to and elaborate because I'm thanking them and I'm stopping at some point. So if they elaborate, I might just go all the way and clap hands in this meeting. The first one, Chair, it's the 75% achievement of the targets with 25 not achieved. I think I want to start there to make the point that forget about 75. 25 is a big gap of non-achievement. Because we don't expect you to be a 70% organization, because the slide I'm going to of your achievements, the recoveries, are well beyond 100. It's 600 percentages and so on. So I think SIU can up their game. And I don't want to use COVID as an excuse. It's a very tempting excuse that everybody comes and use here. So that will be my first comment, Chair. But other than that, I think that they explained why this 818 versus 148 achievement and what was targeted, your PPEs and the Free State issue. But here, Chair, I want to make this point because I see there's a beautiful problem here for SIU and Advocate Mutibi. A beautiful problem in this sense, and I'll make a statement that I want him to help me with. SIU does not have a capacity problem. I assert Advocate Mutibi. SIU does not have a capacity problem because, and so I'm saying your issue is not capacity. If you will go back to that slide that he correctly spent a lot of time on, and I appreciated that, where these cumulative achievements are, where you compare what was targeted and what was achieved. If he had targeted something like a 60 million as an example, then he goes on to get 1.6 billion from this and this. So I'm saying in that regard, it seems to me the issue with you is not capacity, because in terms of how you set target, there's planning. You planned to get 148, but you achieved 818 with the same capacity that you would have planned for 148. And I'm trying to elaborate why I'm saying capacity doesn't seem to be an issue with SIU. Now, I would therefore correct to expect you to never come back to us and say we don't have these resources, because you've just demonstrated in a COVID annual report. This is a COVID annual report. It starts 1st April 2020 at the height of COVID and ends in 31st of March 2021. and yet SIU achieved more than it could have, perhaps in previous years, at least for the period that I've been here. And so perhaps what we need to dig deep into that, because you do not want in the next annual report of 2021-2022, all of a sudden the baseline that have been created is deformed in unexplained ways. So I would want him to elaborate on the statement that I'm making, that for you the issue is not capacity, because you have demonstrated that with the capacity that you have, you don't even double, you triple, you multiply what you are able to achieve. And maybe you can share with us what was the trick behind that. So that will be my first issue, Chair, of those three issues. The second one, Chair, relates to the tribunal. Because with all of what has been achieved, which is so big and so commendable, including the 64 billion achievement, and you are saying, therefore, the tribunal, and I take it the tribunal would have been in the period under review, contributed about 5 billion of the recoveries that you have. This new baby, this kid on the block, that's what it was able to do. And so it means, it therefore say, and goes back to my issue of your capacity not being your issue, that you would have achieved so much more even if you did not have the tribunal as SIU. Perhaps your comment on that. My third point, Chair, which is my passion point, the risk management. On the risk management, Chair, perhaps just to say to Advocate Mutibi, we are also upping our game as an oversight body. And one of the issues that we're prioritizing using our lenses of oversight is how credible is one's risk management and how you mitigate issues. And we're firm, we're very assertive on that. We seriously look into that. So the point here on his risk management, I am in a very good way connecting with some good report on how they manage the issues of the risk. And in that regard, I would like to request that not today, that Advocate Mutibi, and by that time you would have your human capital manager, Mashiko, here to come back to us to share your successes in detail around this risk management area, because many others are not on top of this game. And it seems that SIU has got some success factors that it has. I would like that those be shared with the committee so that we see how people replicate what is a good practice. And I don't think today we're getting a lot of that, because when I look at his risk issues, he did not go into details about this is how we're mitigating this one in order to prevent this from happening, in order to achieve this. And I think that a separate session to do that would be necessary for us to see how much we learn, how much we push others to do that. My final comment, Chair, is on the issue of how they converted interns into permanent staff. And the only comment I have there, which I've written down, is great work. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chanje. Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Chair. With your permission, I'd like to leave the camera off because I have connection problems. If I do cut off, please just let me know if you can't hear me. Firstly, I would like to just commend the SIU Advocate Matibi on a very impressive report. Well done on your clean audit. Well done on exceeding your targets significantly on your core business targets. And this is as you know, I'm one of your greatest admirers and over the many years, and I do recall as the Minister of Finance indicated that he has heard us as the ACDP and will ensure you have sufficient funding. So that is an issue which I think illustrates itself, that you have shown you've gone beyond the call of duty, but what it does also illustrate, given your high levels of collections and the excellent work, it does show the extent of fraud and corruption in our nation. And that obviously is of great concern. And so we commend you and all your staff on the incredible work that you've done in this connection. The question is, could you do more with more funding? Now, the Honorable Dianti says you've got sufficient capacity and you do seem to indicate that. But if you had more funding, you could possibly collect more. And that has been what often we have said. Give the law enforcement agencies sufficient funding and they will be able to freeze assets, investigate, prosecute and collect assets more. It's a win-win situation to me, and I say it continually. So may I just start by looking at the funding. The funding model, firstly, Chairperson, we understand that there are proposed legislative amendments to deal with the funding model, and possibly we should ask the Minister where are those amendments and assist the SIU in that regard to ensure that they are brought back. They will deal with the funding model as well as the implementation of recommendations and referrals. That's very important. I'm concerned about the possibility of you having to write off part of the 619 million that is owed to you by departments where they haven't, and municipalities where they haven't paid that. And I think you indicated 429.855 million, your CFO could possibly be written off due to municipalities not paying the fees due to you for the work that you've done. Now, we know municipalities are an area that are dysfunctional, that require a lot of investigations, and that is a concern to me, because would it not be setting up a precedent where you are forced to write those fees off, given the fact that you're probably going to have to investigate a lot of municipalities? The second issue, which I'd like to just ascertain with the funding, relates to the surplus of 836 million, which is incredible, and it does indicate very good management of your finances when one looks at your ratio of, I think you indicated 4.6 to 1 current assets to current liabilities, where it would commendable would be 2 to 1. So that is part of your balance sheet. Would you, under what circumstances would you be obliged to draw on that surplus, where given the fact that there was talk about a possible budget reduction? I think last year there was a 10 million reduction, although it was, we do not support any cutting of your budget. So those are some of the issues related to the funding model. And I think we as a committee have already indicated we are concerned where you about that, and we would support you in your legislative amendments to deal with that. Chairperson, the second area which I do support you, Chair, is for us to have a separate briefing on all the different inquiries and where they are. We appreciate that some of these achievements are unique, given the fact, for example, the PPE investigations have resulted in many court actions and recoveries, which has pushed up commendably your achievements, but it might not be sustainable given that you might not have similar vast inquiries. So we do take that into note. I would like to ask you about an issue which is close to our hearts. We look at load shedding continually. We look at the ESCOM issues, and I need to ask you whether your ESCOM inquiry, is there still any aspect which is ongoing, or is that all completed, given the fact that we now are aware of the one power station, Takuta, where there is 100 million rand per month allegations of oil fraud per month. That's 100 million at one power station. So I need to get an understanding of ESCOM. Is your proclamation continuing, or would you be looking into the new allegations that are coming out? Even yesterday, the CEO indicated this strange coincidences of incidents happening at power stations, and we cannot, it affects our whole economy. So this is a matter of great concern. The third aspect, Chair, relates to Advocate Matiba. You mentioned blacklisting of private sector companies. Now, the concern is we, as a portfolio committee, passed the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act many years ago that set up the register for tender defaulters. Sadly, to date, that was set up many years ago. Not one private company is on that database of tender defaulters. That is surely a great concern to us. There's a separate database for restricted suppliers that is underutilized. Now, those are what we set up as Parliament for blacklisting of private sector companies that are found to be involved in corruption with state procurement tenders. What, Advocate Matiba, can we or can you do from your perspective to ensure that those companies that are investigated, found guilty, where money is recovered, are placed on those registers? And we know that one of the answers lies with the draft public procurement bill, which needs to, and which we from the ACDP have said must come forward, but it will make it mandatory that names are added. But to date, it's a great concern that names are not added. Lastly, Chair, you briefly, Advocate Matiba, mentioned the issue relating to whistleblowers and witnesses. And this obviously is a great concern to us in the portfolio committee, given the murder of Ms. Barbara Diakuran, the Gauteng Department of Health. She was a key SIU witness and she was murdered. I would like to ask you whether you're engaging further for the protection of witnesses. We know all whistleblowers are not protected, but whether you also consider looking at a review of the Protection of Disclosures Act of 2000 that falls under, and possibly that Act needs to be reviewed to ensure that witnesses and whistleblowers in particular are protected. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jala.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson. Apology for that. Okay, Chairperson, thank you very much for this presentation, very good one, with a very powerful achievement. Advocate Mutibi and the team, and also your unit being able to give us satisfactory mood when it comes to the results that you normally yield when it comes to your work. But really, your achievement of 75%, we really applaud it. But I also want to comment on the 25 because it really affects me so much as a woman and also other women on the other side. I just want to talk to the vacancies. Yes, we note that you have a new structure. You're still working on that structure in making sure that, because that structure added some new positions that you must make sure that you fill them. Yes, we get the report that there were some delays when it comes to the discussions with labor that you have experienced. But I think that issue has to be addressed as of yesterday. Maybe also if you can also give us more information on this area, just comment as to what are the difficulties that you really experience, just in short, so that we may know also. You'll understand why I'm interested on this one, because the issue of vacancies, it impacts so much on the issue of unemployment in the country. So the issue of us being complacent or maybe taking the issue of vacancies not serious, it becomes an issue not only to the unit, to the department, to the entire country. If we can improve on that area. I'm saying this because in your report, 2021, you at this moment, you have 53 vacancies at the senior level. So if you can give us progress, maybe you have some things or some vacancies that you have filled there, but if you can also tell us now that is it still that 53 that it still has to be filled. If you can comment on that one. And then also on this very same, on the annual report, on the number of women employed at the senior and top management level, you only have 16, which is 33 of your workforce. So my question is, even before I come to the question, you've got 43 women employed at the professional qualified level compared to 100 men. So this brings me to the question of your commitment on this matter, because at least at this moment, we've been talking about this issue of 50-50 women. It seems as if it's a serious problem when you have to fill that one. I think that 53 vacancies that is sitting there also, it impacts on this matter of women in the unit, employed in the unit. If you can speed up on that one, can you really also talk to that issue? Why is it that you are not able to at least 50-50? Because we would really appreciate if you can even go above, so that you have few men, 40 men and 60% women. Would really appreciate that. If you can look into that issue and comment as to, from now, what is it that you are going to do in order to make sure that you satisfy that area. And the question, another question that I had, it is on the number of referrals that you have made for disciplinary action against officials. This is another issue of a critical issue when it comes to the corruption that is taking place within the department, the institution, our institutions. It's very serious. It is the issue that needs effort from all of us in making sure that those departments comply. So on this matter, I just want to find out, is there any adequate response when it comes to this issue? Because we have been listening to other presentations from other departments that falls under this committee. The issue of fruitless expenditure, irregular expenditure, it seems to be the one that is very difficult to deal with. And it comes to, it takes me to the point of somebody commenting about the very same issue, saying the reason why we won't be able to win that war, it is because these officials, they create this atmosphere of fruitless expenditure and this irregular expenditure for them to be able to continue, it tells us that stealing still continue within the departments. And we need to make sure that we reinforce. Because for as long as we get reports with irregular expenditure, fruitless expenditure, it means there is an area where we don't touch, where the officials are very comfortable. And which area is that? Can we all focus also on that area so that we can be able to win the war? There's a lot of money that we are losing when it comes to these officials that are stealing, and comfortably so. But I wanted to find out also on the very same issue that do you get joy, especially when it comes to justice? You know, justice department, our department is one department that is supposed not to be having such problems. But it is shocking that even in justice, there is corruption. So I just wanted to find out if also in this, in our department, when do you get a joy when it comes to these reports about these referrals that you have made? Let me go to the issue of anti-corruption forums that you have created. What is not clear here, Chairperson, it is the issue of how is the unit measuring the success of these forums. Maybe if we can be given information on that one also. Advocate Mutibi. My apology. The last one is on the organized crime groups in relation to the investigations. What are the challenges and the success on this one? If maybe also you can also give us an information in relation to the success and the challenges on this. I think that was the last one, Chair, from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. May I request Honorable Swart that we have a body break so that I can be able to focus and listen to you. Nature is really calling. Will you be so kind to just delay a bit?
Swart has finished. It's not Swart. He can't repeat.
Sorry, no. Sorry, Honorable Horn. Thank you, Honorable Judge. Honorable Horn.
They look the same.
Say donkey, Werner. Say donkey.
Yeah, no, I'm much more attractive than the Honorable Swart, but I'll forgive you. But yes, Chair, please do so.
Okay. Now, can we meet at 11:03?
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, members, and to everybody listening and watching. Honorable Horn, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, let me join firstly other colleagues who've congratulated the SIU on both the clean audit and the overperformance in terms of key performance areas. So from our side as well, well done. So when we then, Chair, highlight some issues, then of course it is not to belittle this performance, but really to assist and to forewarn about matters that if not addressed, I think could denigrate performance going forward. So in that regard, Chair, others have already addressed the vacancy rate on senior management level. The only additional question I want to ask is about the deputy head position that has not been filled since the departure of the former deputy head in the year 2019-2020. So the question must be asked, why has that not this position not been filled? And what is the plans in respect of recruitment going forward? Then, Chair, in respect of the funding model, the Honourable Swart has asked certain questions around that. In addition to that, I want to inquire, at some stage, the whole idea was that an agreement or an interaction with National Treasury would be undertaken to ask that in the instance where specifically governmental departments and provinces, after a specific amount of time and a specific, let's say, amount of not adhering to the invoices rendered for services, that a certain percentage of their next appropriation be rather paid over to the SIU in order to enable debt recovery in the absence of really those entities and departments just simply ignoring requests for payment. So I want to ask whether has been any progress in respect of that idea. Then, Chair, in respect of the capacity, we see that as a result of the higher rate of inflow of referrals, that the amount paid to consultants have increased dramatically from 35.9 million to 63.9 million. So it would be good to hear, whilst one must be appreciative that if the referrals, let's say, is much more than anticipated, that consultants quite possibly could play a constructive role. Nonetheless, if one circles back to the vacancy rate specifically on senior level, I think we need to ask what is the type of consultants that were used by the SIU? Is it in all fields or is it limited to specific fields? And if it is then limited to specific fields, what is the plan going forward then to rather be able to perform those functions in an in-house manner? And then lastly, Chair, the one thing I think that we will be failing in our duty if we not strongly point out and insist on a massive improvement is the issue around the ICT plan, where there was a 0% performance in respect of the development of the plan. I don't think it would be scaremongering if we say we don't want the SIU to fall foul of the same type of hacking and data breaches that has happened at the Department of Justice, where for many years as well, it was quite clear that the ICT infrastructure was one of the risks. The Honourable Jantjie referred to risks. So I think from our side, we must ask what is the plans to now expedite the development of the ICT plan Specifically, Chair, if one considers also that the explanation for the failure to develop data analytics capacity in the SIU is ascribed to the fact that the ICT environment is not susceptible to such development. And colleagues would recall in the SIU wouldn't need a reminder that when the APP was presented to us, the development of data analytics capacity in-house was at that stage very much put on the table as a key component of success for the SIU going forward. So if we then go back to the SIU's own analysis as to the importance of in-house data analytics capacity, one must ask, if it was so important then, why has nothing been done to deal with both the ICT infrastructure and the data analytics capacity development? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Horn. Honorable Velmani, votes,
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to everyone on the platform. Thank you for the presentation. I'm also joining my colleagues to congratulate the SIU on the clean audit and all their reports. Also, thank you to the Audit Committee Chair, and thank you for providing guidance to the SIU. I first want to go, you don't have to put the slides up, but I want to go to slide number 5 of the presentation. There's one line there that I wanted to ask a question about. The rand value for potential cash and or assets to be recovered. Now I'm asking because in the columns, it's only up to 2019, 2020. So I'm interested in 2020, 2021. So I wanted to ask, the term, when you say to be recovered for 2019, 2020, how much of that was recovered during 2020, 2021 financial year? Okay. And then I also wanted to go to, oh no, wait, let me just ask my question. Of the interns, you said 43 interns have been successfully appointed. Now, out of how many interns was it altogether? So those 43 that was appointed, how many was there? Then 15% vacancy, sure, it's higher than the required DPSA 10%. But I want to know, the 15% equates to how many positions or you know, people needed to be appointed. So how many positions does the 15% equate to? And I also wanted to ask, I know the Honorable Jele did ask it, but I wanted to ask with regard to the whistleblowers. Like one whistleblower, you know, ran to another country. So I'm just curious, because the person was fearing for his life, he ran away because he was a whistleblower for something that was said in the Zondo Commission. Now, the witness protection for other witnesses or whistleblowers, the protection offered, what does the SIU do to assist the NPA and SAPS to make sure that our whistleblowers are safe? Or, you know, what is your perspective? What do you think is needed to be done? What more is needed to be done to avoid people from leaving the country? I mean, this is their home and now they have to run away because they feel unsafe. Then I also wanted to know with regard to the impact of COVID-19 on the unit. You mentioned the numbers there, but I would like to know what the impact was. And I also wanted to know, during level 5 hard lockdown, did it mean the SIU could do no work at all? Was there not even an online something that could be done online? And then also how many or how much was given to eventually convert to online, to the online platform? How much money was given to transform the whole unit to be able to work online? And you mentioned the disciplinary actions against officials. I wanted to know, do you just hand it over to the different departments, but do you also follow up whether the departments have done disciplinary hearings or not? Do you see it through? Do you do a follow-up or not? And you give the state institutions consequence management. Does the SIU also have the capacity to monitor whether the state institutions implement consequence management? And then the increase in organized crime, especially during the COVID period. Can you just give more information with regard to that, the organized crime, and the SIU's assistance to SAPS and the NPA to check up and monitor and prevent organized crime? What does the SIU do? Then I'm just having a look here to make sure I've covered everything. Oh, you said the ICT target was not met. Especially during the COVID time, but now we need the ICT, especially as we see everything as moving over to online. Now, I would like the SIU to talk more on that specifically. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and good morning to everybody. Also, my congratulations to the SIU for a very impressive report. If it's all possible for them without compromising their investigations, I'd like to know a little bit more about the progress being made into the investigations at the Master's Office, the State Attorneys, and the court buildings issues. And then,
can you repeat that, Honorable Breitenbach?
If it's possible to have more information without compromising the investigations on the Master's Office, State Attorney, and court building issues. I would be interested in the progress there without detail that will compromise the investigations. Then with regards to the Kusile Power Station ABB contract, where 1.57 billion was recovered, it's a very impressive number, but what are the consequences of this recovery? Has it been referred to the NPA? Is someone being prosecuted? What happens? It's fine to get back that amount of money, but to get it back, there must have been a serious problem. And what are the consequences of that matter? Then the referrals for disciplinary action of members of the state attorneys, there were 2 such referrals and 1 from the Master's Office. Is there progress there? Can they update us on what's going on there? There were 5 referrals from the state attorney and 8 from the Master's Office to the NPA. Is there progress there? Is there a way of monitoring what the progress is with those referrals? And if so, what is the progress? And then just generally, I would like more information on matters that get referred to the NPA. are they being prosecuted? Or are they just joining the never-ending pile of very serious matters that appear to not be making much progress? I would also be interested in, although this has been asked before, why the deputy head position has not been filled. And then I would like more information about the security of whistleblowers. I know this has been raised, but whistleblowers do not fall within the witness protection ambit. So what are Advocate Matibi or whoever is responsible for this at his office, what are their views on how do we go about ensuring the safety of whistleblowers? It's becoming a more common phenomenon that whistleblowers are being killed. We all know about the gentleman who said he was so terrified that he ran away, and that's unfortunate, and he shouldn't have been in that position, but others have been killed. And that can have a seriously dampening effect on criminal prosecutions and also on other people coming forward, both of which we really need. So what is or can be done to assist the security of whistleblowers? Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Breitenbach. Honourable Breitenbach, you know our program, that we have a program wherein we invite SIU, Hawks, and the NPA, specifically on the issues relating to the Master's Office, state attorneys, and the court buildings. We were going to have that joint briefing early next year where they give us an update. So would you still insist that you want some answers now, or you would wait for that briefing?
Chair, I'm happy to wait for that briefing. I regard the matter as serious, and next year is a long time away, but I'm happy to wait. It's fine.
Yes, because you remember the last time that they were here, we said that we're not happy about the updates. And then we said we're going to give them some time so that they can come back and update us on the issues that were raised because I think this will be our fourth briefing. Since I think the first time we met only with the SIU, the second time we invited the NPA, the third time we invited the Hawks, the NPA, and the SIU. So we said that no, we are going to early next year to invite the three of them to give us an update.
It's fine. I'm quite happy to wait, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Advocate Mutibe.
Honorable Chair and honorable members, we thank the honorable members for the very incisive and elaborate questions. We will respond and just welcoming and really being thankful for the kind words of encouragement, which we do not take lightly. Of course, the challenge is to ensure that we keep it up. We ensure that the good performance is sustained. And just starting off with Honorable Janchi, the 25% that has not been achieved, we do hear the Honorable Member Janchi that it does, of course, reflect non-performance on that score. So we will really make sure that we put in place measures as we have done now on the vacancy rate, on the signing of performance agreements, on the ICT, and the implementation of the stakeholder survey. Those are supportive to the core business, and we also view them as critical. So the 25% we do here and really accept that it has to be covered, it has to be performed as well. Honorable Janji, with regard to the beautiful problem that we have really sketched out I think we are on record as saying we would really like to make sure that we are well capacitated, and as we indicate in our human capital report, in view of the 105% over the 5 years increase in proclamations. The related part is to ensure that we capacitate ourselves appropriately. And there's an ongoing assessment of that to ensure that from an organization perspective, the capacity reflected in the headcount, but of course also in the equipment and the tools of work, that we have all that in place to ensure that we meet our obligations. The results that we are presenting today, covered in the annual report, has really been the result of a various factors that were put in place, ensuring that we turn around our investigations quickly. That do culture that we have implemented, we really take it very serious, that when there's turnaround times, they are monitored. We have implemented review mechanisms of investigations. We do check meticulously on how investigators are doing, how is it that we can support them, and we do make those reports appropriately. But we are really not immune from this beautiful problem, Honorable Chair and Honorable Janji, that and there's a question that was asked, I'll still come to that, we could really do more if we were really capacitated as planned, because the planned headcount was about 600, but because of the recruitment process that sort of got delayed, we ended up with that 15% vacancy. I think it translates to about 90 or so vacancies. So the Chief Human Capital has, in this week, submitted the revised resourcing plan, and that resourcing plan addresses the headcount requirement of the SIU. So we will continue to monitor that resourcing plan as against the increase of the business, that is the inflow of allegations, increase of proclamations. So we also do that in conjunction with the operating managers, the provincial heads, and the head of the national investigations. So they do identify the kind of resources that they require, and we ensure that from a human resource perspective, we support that. So what I'm really saying is we'll continue to watch the increase in business and the resourcing plan and how is it that is going, and at any point, and that is of course based on a few assumptions. The most important assumption is that our budget almost stays the same, and that is not cut, and that we succeed in ensuring that we recover the debt, which honorable members have also hinted on. So there are various assumptions that we bring into play to ensure that we sustain the performance. The PPE investigations really hit us at a time when we were still busy with all of this resourcing model, and we had to ensure that we move resources such that we support that. I mean, all the investigations are really important, but the PPE investigations that attracted so much public interest, and we had to ensure that we meet our requirements, particularly on a 6-weekly reporting that was required by the president. So Honorable Jelle, while at the moment we're still really indicating that we can do with what we have, we still are continuing with the resourcing plan that we are implementing, and we will continuously report back to the committee how successful we are in capacitating the organization. The CFO has indicated around the deficit over the years that are coming. So, and the National Treasury has approved that we could be at that deficit. There's a mechanism, and I'm sure the CFO can talk to that. There was a question even asked that would the National Treasury allow us to use the surplus. There are financial rules around that, and the CFO is really ensuring that we comply with that in conjunction with the National Treasury. So the trick around ensuring that we perform currently has really been to ensure that as management across the organization, we really just lift up the bar in terms of monitoring the performance process and the projects that are underway with the strategic objectives that we have set for ourselves of improving the turnaround times, of improving the outcomes, and ensuring that there's consequence management. So those have been the guiding and overriding objectives, but we have now put in place measures to ensure that at all levels of management, we monitor the performance, and our members, the employees generally, are aware that the performance is monitored appropriately. With regard to the special tribunal, yes, indeed, the special tribunal has really proved to be an important forum for us to speed up our civil proceedings. At the moment, as I indicated, that there are about 40 cases that have been issued at the special tribunal with a contract value of 5 billion. So those cases are still to be adjudicated and to ensure that we recover from those contracts that have been set aside and the just and equitable orders that the special tribunal will order. On the comment, Honorable Janji, we could have achieved the same even without the special tribunal. The view is that, given the delays that we have observed in the past of taking matters to the High Court, it is really a question whether we would have achieved this speeding up of civil proceedings with the kind of delay that we have in the High Courts. So my view is that the tribunal has really contributed, has been a game changer in this space of ensuring that we speed up the civil litigation and the recoveries. With regard to risk management, and we are really glad to hear that in monitoring us, the agencies and the departments, the honorable members would also, amongst others, be focusing on the risk management aspects of state institutions, including us as SIU. Honorable Chair, we have really developed a comprehensive enterprise risk management framework, and that framework has various requirements to the senior managers, to the managers. We have developed a process of risk assessments which are monitored regularly, and the risk department, which is led by the chief risk officer who is in the meeting, Mr. Mkungo, they do the monitoring on an ongoing basis, and we really require that for every risk that has been identified, there should be a set of controls that are identified for mitigation. And of course, as a risk management process, we would ensure that those controls are implemented, and the internal audit led by the chief audit executive and the the chair of audit committee has indicated, they monitor and assess on an ongoing basis in their audit plan. They include the checking of the adequacy of those controls. But without going into detail, we really would welcome an opportunity to go into detail on how we implement the risk management in the organization. We have also implemented best practice. That has been the learnings both from public sector and from the corporate sector. And we will demonstrate to the committee on how we have implemented that. Okay. So we'll welcome that session. Converting interns into permanents. Yes, we have successfully done that, and that has been a program that was run by Human Capital. There was a program that they were subjected to, and there were assessments that they had to go through. And we're saying 43, of that 43, 21 came from external, like the LLB graduates and so on. And then internally, we had 22. 22 were mostly administrators in the department or in the SIU. And we trained them. We took them through this assessment, through this project, which was run by Learning and Development. And they had to go through the assessment. They wrote some assessments, and we were satisfied that they could now be absorbed into a junior forensic investigator position. So we are really glad that we have done that. As I indicated before, it would really be counterproductive, and it would add on to the unemployment of the youth to complete this graduate program of the interns, and at the end send them back into the streets. But we are really delighted that we were able to convert them into permanents. Honorable Swart, again, we really are thankful for the kind words, and we will continue to do our best. So that's where the question came on. Could you do more with more funding? We indeed could do more, and we would like to ensure that we do more. On the finance side, the surplus that we have ensured that we maintain, and managing it with the deficit issue that we have talked about, because we have projected based on the growth of the business or say growth of the proclamation and the allegation vis-a-vis the headcount and other tools of trade that we will require. The funding model, we are really thankful that the committee would support the legislative changes that are underway, and the CFO, perhaps time permitting, can come in for a few minutes and indicate the kind of engagements that we are having with the National Treasury. But those engagements would then ultimately also input into the kind of the funding model that would require. We have done some benchmark in terms of some of our peers internationally, and we have contributed to how this change, the funding model should really change. And our engagement with the National Treasury would see that being contributed into the funding model and the legislative changes. Under what circumstances would we be allowed to draw from the surplus? Oh yes, yeah, this was the question. Yeah, I would like the CFO, please, Mr. Hernandez, if you can just make an asterisk on this and just indicate what are the rules that are required to draw from this surplus, because we really don't want to fall foul of that. The issue around load shedding and the ESCOM investigation. The ESCOM investigation is still ongoing, and I'm going to just allow, again, Mr. Lekgetho, who's the Chief National Investigating Officer, just to indicate the high-level status of this investigation. But Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, we actually continue the same experience we had with the PPE, where we continue to get allegations. We continue to get allegations relating to the ESCOM investigation and ESCOM irregularities and corruption that was committed there. I mean, if I were just to give an example, the latest example I could give was the latest allegation we received around one of the senior managers at ESCOM. I think his surname is Masibugo, and I'm mentioning the name because it's public. We received allegations related. He was a senior manager at one of the ESCOM plants or areas where he committed irregularities and fraudulent relating to his family company, and we ended up freezing. I think we freezed about I think between 10 and 15 million in his account, and we are now on the way to argue that that money should be forfeited to the state. Those allegations were received, I think, almost about what, 2 or 3 months ago. You know, so we continue to get these allegations, but in line with our requirement that when an investigation is so ongoing like this, we need to produce interim reports. You know, and we will be really interested in those allegations around the 100 million per month oil fraud, and to really see if we can't look further into that and ensure that they are appropriately investigated. On the issue around the blacklisting of private companies, we do really make sure that where private companies are involved in irregularities, we do from our side as SIU, we make recommendations to the state institutions where these companies would have received contracts. And those recommendations would be contained in a document which sets out what are these irregularities and what has been the findings of SIU. And then we say the state institution, the accounting officer or the accounting authority has to implement the administrative process to blacklist these companies so that ultimately they get blacklisted by National Treasury. And I would imagine they would end up in this register that Honorable Horn is referring to. So what can we do from our side? We do follow up on those referrals to ensure that that is actioned and the administrative action is carried out so that ultimately the action, the blacklisting happens. Now, with regard to the whistleblowers and the witnesses, we are mindful that this is really a serious area, which we don't really take lightly, particularly in view of the threats that the witnesses face and the death of Ms. Diakuran recently. I am aware, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, that the Department of Justice has started a process to ensure that this area is looked at. And at this stage, we are cooperating with the Department of Justice in terms of the experiences that we have on the kind of threats that the witnesses receive, and how is it that there could be improvements. But currently, I mean, we are dealing with current matters where witnesses approach SIU, and the Chief Risk Officer of SIU is also in charge of the internal security is also charged with ensuring that we receive this reports from whistleblowers, and we do through the Chief Risk Officer and the related investigating teams, we meet with these whistleblowers who have reported to us. We assess what are their threats. We engage with the crime intelligence. They do assessments, and when appropriate, we do have witnesses. But for now, witnesses who were investigators. There's one or two that are in a protection framework at the moment. So when there's current matters that are referred to us, that becomes known to us, we do ensure that we collaborate with other peers in the law enforcement agencies, including the NPA that manages the witness protection program. And we have ensured that the witnesses are really protected. We've also had an experience just a few minutes in the Bait Bridge investigation, where we investigated the fence, the Bait Bridge fence. It's now in the special tribunal for arguments. And the experts that we used there, I got a report from our chief legal that those experts were saying they are feeling unsafe to go and testify. And then I gave them an instruction that there are processes in place where witnesses can testify in a safe environment. We have seen it in the courts, we have seen it in the commission. So we should be able to put measures in place to ensure that when the witnesses come to testify, they testify in a safe environment. And they've done that, but the arguments proceeded at the special tribunal. Honorable Jele, we really take the comments into account. We take very serious the issue around ensuring that there's gender equity. Over and above the employment equity, a very important substructure of that is gender equity in the employment. And this resourcing plan that I've said the Chief Human Capital submitted to me this week also takes into account the need to ensure that the women receive attention when it comes to appointments. And Honorable Chair, through you, we can submit in writing what the plan is that is called upon by Honorable Jele. I don't have the details at the moment. We can submit it to the Honorable Committee, just outlining that as part of this resourcing plan and the recruitment plan, how is it that we are planning to improve the situation around women appointments. Again, about 50-50% around women. We take that into account and we'll demonstrate that into our plan. We take heed of the comment that it should ultimately possibly be about 40% women and 60%, 40% men and 60% women. We take that into account, and we will ensure that there's parity. There's parity in that case. On the number of referrals for disciplinary action, as part of our new strategy, we have implemented a function in SIU to ensure that we follow up on this disciplinary referrals. And I need to also just mention that from the presidency side, there's a decision that has been taken to release the SIU reports to the state institutions. And as part of the inquiry of releasing those reports is to find out what has been done with the referrals that has been made by SIU. So the observation that we have now, and we are on record as saying, although it really requires an improvement, the speed at which this consequence management is done requires an improvement, because although it's happening, it's really happening at a slow pace, and that contributes, because as we said always, that we would like to contribute to dealing with the culture of impunity in our system. And the culture of impunity could be dealt with only when the consequence management is implemented. So we would like to ensure that that part is dealt with, so that anyone and at any level of the organizations is dealt with when they are found to have been in the wrong. Do you get Joy? As far as the action on the referrals, Honorable Chair, I think I've indicated that not real 100% joy. We believe that that part requires improvement, where consequence management is implemented and implemented speedily. Of course, we are aware that due process has to be followed, because when we send these referrals, they now enter into another fair process of going through the disciplinary hearing. And we find that some of these officials, they appoint lawyers to represent them, and they go through the elaborative process. We take that into account because the rule of law has to be complied with, but we would like to see that that part being improved. The measurement of the anti-corruption forum's success. We're really, that question came up at the anti-corruption task team, where all the law enforcement agencies meet. In fact, the first forum that was implemented was the Health Sector Anti-Corruption Forum. So we are going to do a pilot there. I think we'll be approaching one of the government agencies, I think is the Human Science Research Council, where they have a measure, how they measure the success, but we are also engaging with the Department of Planning, where they've got measures of measuring the success rate. So Honorable Jele, we will be reporting on how that process is going of measuring the success of these forums, because we believe that they add value. They add value in the sense that they bring together the sectors, all the parties in particular sector. This is a sector approach of fighting corruption. And we have seen value in the health sector one. Now there's the infrastructure build one. The local government one has been also established. We want to perfect all these sector approaches so that they add value to these sectors. The organized crime part, as part of the review of the ACTT, there is a part where we are saying, how do we ensure that the organized crime environment, is improved, particularly from the point of view of fighting corruption, because we do find syndicates. We do find that this corruption also lends itself to organized crime. An example is in the PPE space, where we have investigated, particularly in the TERS space, where we have found that it is on an organized basis. So we are contributing to the organized crime framework that is in place to ensure that we also contribute there. Honorable Horn, the vacancy rate at senior management, I think you've alluded to that. As part of the recruitment process and the resourcing plan, we will ensure that that part also receives attention. The vacancy of the deputy head, the role was advertised, I think about a month or so ago or two ago. I know that this point came up at the last appearance we had. It was advertised. We've received the CVs, and in fact, I think Human Capital has put together a file with all the CVs, and they've done some shortlisting, which must now get attention, and we must just drive it forward to completion. At the next appearance, or even probably before, we could appraise the committee on where we are in that process. certain of the proportion be paid. Oh, this is the funding model, Honorable Hon. We would really appreciate that. We would really welcome that. As part of this funding model, and we have seen that in some other jurisdictions, it happens in that way, that where there are recoveries, some certain percentage gets paid to the agency that has really recovered. But of course, this is still a subject of discussion. We will contribute to the funding model. The amount paid to the consultants, I think, Honorable Hon, your observation is accurate. While we saw this increase in proclamations, the assessment we made was that we needed to make sure that we create the commensurate capacity. And the capacity that we had internal was really not going to meet the increase. And I think we have mentioned it before. We have put together the panel of experts that we drew from them in terms of the need. And the levels that we drew from was from forensic investigators, forensic accountants, and some of them are really the experts that we would ordinarily not employ, like your engineers and quantity surveyors and so on. But the question that Honorable Hon asks is, what are we doing? So up to now, in fact, I think we have seen a decrease, and we would like to see it further decreasing. Increasing the internal capacity, we've signed off on various appointments now, where we increase capacity and decrease the use of the expert panels, because as we have said, it's not cost effective, but it was necessary at the time, because we would really not have met, this huge obligation of investigating the allegations if we had not done that. So we are at the stage now where we really have increased the internal capacity. The ICT plan, indeed, Honorable Hon, and in fact, our Chief Information Officer can attest to that. We are really ensuring that from a hacking perspective, we've got the measures in place. And in fact, they've got measures in that ICT space where they look at the firewalls, they call them, and all of those measures, just to ensure that we don't fall prey to these hackers. But generally, we have a project from the ICT space, which is monitored by the ICT committee. I'm also monitoring it to ensure that the various aspects of the ICT plan are implemented. Honorable Nieuwoud Drugen, how much was recovered for 2020, 2021? I think the honorable member referred to 2.1. It shows 2017-18, 2018-19, and 19-20. There is also an area where we are showing recoveries for 2020-2021. If you look at the extreme right, it does appear that in 2021, the actual recovery there on rent value for of actual cash recovered is 1.8 billion that we've recovered for this financial year. The interns, I think I've addressed that. 22 internal and 2021 external, they've all been converted into permanent junior forensic investigators. We are really delighted about that. The vacancy rate, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, we will progress. As we speak today, it would really have changed and changed for the positive. We would like to make sure that we stay within the benchmark of vacancy rate on that. I've spoken about the safety of whistleblowers, what needs to be done to protect the whistleblowers. We will contribute to the process that the Department of Justice is running, but also on the current needs of the witnesses and whistleblowers. We are ensuring that with the legislative framework that we have in place, that we give them the protection they need. During the hard lockdown, did SIU work? Yes, we did work, honorable member. Despite SIU not having been listed as one of the the services that could work at the time, but we really got our members to work, and we are really delighted that the members of SIU showed commitment to ensure that we execute our work as required. Disciplinary actions referred to state institutions. Do you follow up? Honorable Chair and members, I think I did comment on that we do have a function, and we do follow up. Even the provinces, the provincial heads and their teams within the departments where they have made referrals, they do follow up and they get feedback on an ongoing basis. So we will demonstrate when we are called, Honorable Chair, and thanks for that comment, that we will be called on a joint session with NPA and the Hawks. We will, amongst others, just indicate how we have followed up on the referrals for disciplinary actions. Yes, the capacity to monitor consequence management is part of ensuring that we follow up on these referrals. I did indicate around our contribution on the improvement of the organized crime framework, because yes, we do find that there's element of syndicates and organized crime in some of the investigations that we do. Honorable Breitenbach, we also appreciate the kind words of encouragement. Of course, we will continue to do our best. And thanks, Honorable Chair. We will prepare to give an update on the master's investigation, state attorney, and the courts when we are called upon to do that. The recovery that we have made, yes, we have made referrals to NPA, and Honorable Chair and Honorable Breitenbach and members, we do have quite a good interaction with the NPA on the memorandum of understanding that we have put in place. And in fact, NPA has even suggested that we must now get the SAPS as a third party onto this memorandum of understanding, so that we can really, on a coordinated and integrated basis, get these referrals being attended to speedily. Why is the DH position not filled? I think I did respond on that, that we have received CVs now, and we will progress that part. How do we go about protecting whistleblowers? Honorable Chair, again, I think I've responded. We do really make sure through our Chief Risk Officer to ensure that we follow up on the witnesses that come to us. And I've also just indicated to the investigating teams and to all the members of SIU that, you know, when we identify anyone as a potential witness, we need to, at that stage where we take the affidavit and so on, even go an extra mile of indicating to the witnesses or potential witnesses that there's this framework of protecting the witnesses in government. And whenever at any point that there is a view that their lives are threatened or whatever the case may be, they should immediately report to us or immediately report to the SAPS so that they can be protected. I'm going to just give a few moments to the CFO around the rules that around the using of the surplus. And Mr. Lekgetho, you can just briefly brief the Honorable Committee on the status of the ESCOM investigations, but I've already just indicated that it's ongoing and we are keeping on receiving allegations, but we will ensure that we at least produce interim reports so that we mark our investigations appropriately. Honorable Chair, I would like to thank you and the Honorable Committee for the opportunity to respond. CFO. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate. Just to reflect quickly on the first one, on the funding model, we've had over the last few months, 6 months or so, 2 to 3 engagements with National Treasury. The new Minister of Finance has expressed his view to address this, and we've engaged with the officials. We've come up with the various options of how it could be changed. It is now at the stage when National Treasury officials will present it to the DG and to the Minister, after which they will engage with us in order to take that in further into legislative changes if need be. So we've made some progress there with regards to the engagements. With regards to the surplus and the utilization of the surplus. So in terms of the PFMA, we need to, on an annual basis, before the end of September, submit a motivation to National Treasury that set out how we would use the surplus funds. And over the last 20 years, Treasury has approved that. And again, for this year, we've set out the motivation, the bulk of the funds, the three main high-level spending areas would be obviously the increase in human resources to meet the incoming demand in proclamations and investigative work. Secondly, we are still setting aside a figure of between 150 and 200 million for the head office that we wanted to procure, but we currently have joined Department of Justice with regards to the idea and the initiative to have a justice precinct with the minister. And then lastly, the ICT expansion with regards to CapEx, a set of new service tool sets for the data analytics and related hardware, software, and resources. We've set aside 150 million, and on that basis, the Treasury has approved the retention of the surplus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CFO. Mr. Lekgetho, a few minutes, if you have any additions for Eskom.
Thank you, Advocate, and let me pass greeting to the Honorable Chair and Honorable Member. With regard to Eskom, I can confirm that the investigation is ongoing, and recently we have engaged Eskom where they wanted to increase the mandate of the investigation because of other contracts that they have discovered, particularly the long-term contract which run over a long period of time. And also, particularly, they want us to focus on the diesel procurement, of which it seems like it's an issue. And also, we're looking at some of the power stations that are not covered by the current proclamation that we're having. And currently, we are scoping some of those allegations so that we can see the ones that are covered by the proclamation, and the ones that are not covered, we're gonna apply either for extension of the proclamation or to be issued with a new proclamation so that we can deal with those new proclamation. But with regard to the ongoing investigation, we have done quite a lot in terms of uncovering some of the corruption that we have seen within the Eskom. For example, in terms of the officials that are doing business with Eskom, we found that close to 102 officials are doing business with Eskom. And when we look at the value of the amount that have been paid, they've been paid close to more than 5 billion officials that are doing business with Eskom. And the investigation is ongoing with regard to that. And regarding the bail contract, we're currently looking at close to 32 contract package, of which they are at different stage. And some of these matters are still, some of them are at the special tribunal where we want to cancel the contract and to recover the money. And some of them are in the High Court. And with regard to the referral, to date, we have done 67 to NPA and 66 to Asset Forfeiture Unit, whereby during the previous financial year, we have recovered close to 1.7 billion cash that was recovered. With regard to the investigation is going well, Chair, I just need to inform that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. We are available if there's still further questions. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Advocate Mthibi, to your team. And thank you to the Chair of the Audit Committee for the report. You know, even when you go to school or to university, 75% is a distinction. But as Honorable Janji and Honorable Jale have said, even when we have received distinction, a good student would want to go beyond 75. Would always want to go beyond 75. And even when he or she has received 100, he will focus or she will focus on how to compete against his or her own record now. I think that is the spirit with which we welcome the report from yourselves and the good work, and especially that the good work is sustainable. In the last financial year, you achieved 69% performance. Now it's 75% performance with clean audit. We would like to really thank you very much for that. Just few issues. One of the issue is the issue that I would like to expand on is the issue that Honorable Janje raised about you coming to share your risk strategies with the portfolio committee. I would suggest even further that maybe as the first point you can come, as a first leg, you can come and share those risk strategies with the portfolio committee. But I think secondly, we should look at having a meeting, a workshop, I'm not sure, we still discuss as a committee how to call it, where all our departments or entities within our portfolio, we can generally have a meeting where all those things can be shared. Because you have, we have a blessing in the form of the SIU that is doing very well around those areas, but there are departments and entities within our stable that are not doing so well. I think it's important that those who must be able to share strategies and tactics and share experiences. And because we have been asking for that for some time from the relevant CEOs and it's not happening, I think it would be important that during this term, and we focus on it next year, that we convene it. Because it's a serious imbalance where you will have the SIU, you will have the legal aid and others performing optimally. So then you have the Department of Justice and Department of Correctional Services performing below average. Now, it's important that you, as the SIU, as the legal aid and others, are able to share experiences and to assist the others as to how to be where you are. So maybe we would work on that after having received that a report from yourselves where you'll be sharing with the portfolio committee risk strategies, but it will be important that those are rolled out to involve everybody who reports to this committee. You also have new entities that would that are starting, for instance, the information regulator. I think it would be important that as they start, they are able to get this wisdom from yourselves as to how they must start not being an average organization. Already they must be at a level where you are at. I mean, they're doing very well for now, but we think that sharing of those experiences will be very critical. The issue that I think both Honorable Swart and Honorable Janje are raising from different angles, I think we can sum it up by saying that how do we use law enforcement agencies in a form of fighting crime and corruption to ensure that there is economic growth in our country. And as such, I do think that we need a more detailed and scientific approach to this issue of setting targets. It might even include the Office of Monitoring and Evaluation, because clearly if you set a target of 100 and 150, and then you achieve 800 and 850, it means that you are in standard 1, but you have a capacity of being at the master's level. So why should we keep you standard 1? So, but it needs to be approached in a very scientific way, because I think you would argue that these targets and your performance will go up and down depending on how many proclamations have you received. But the fact of the matter is that we are at the beginning of, as a country, of our fighting against crime and corruption. Is still a long way to go. So it would be important that we have really targets, because I'm not really speaking about you alone. At the back of my mind, I'm generally thinking about yourselves. I'm thinking about the asset forfeiture unit. That everybody is talking about 500 billions and hundreds of billions of rands that have been lost to corruption. But our targets, generally both SIU and MPA and asset forfeiture units, don't reflect that. We have recoveries of 2 billion, but at the end of the day, to what an extent can we be in a position where our targets, we are working on the basis of what has been lost as a country and what has to be recovered? And it's not something that we are blaming you for. It's something that as a country, as a whole, that's why we are involving, I think we're thinking about also the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation, National Treasury, that we should be able to have that kind of a discussion so that you are appropriately equipped financially to be able to really recover to the extent and the magnitude of what has been lost to the country. Because we were saying earlier this week to the NPA that the issue of growing the economy, as long as you are not tackling the issue of crime and corruption, a crime now that includes also even these ransom attacks, these cyber attacks, a crime that would, we think that in the near future would even include terrorism. You are not going to succeed in building or growing the economy. So the issue of focusing and capacitating the law enforcement agencies is very urgent. There is no investor or group of investors that you will be able to attract if your law enforcement agency of your country are not up to scratch. Because I remember when I was still at the Department of Trade and Industry, there is a Chinese company that manufactured blankets that was given, I think, a loan of about 187 million by the IDC. And then they started manufacturing. But because of problems of piracy, porous borders, they had to close down because there were people who were manufacturing counterfeit goods, in fact, quarter of the price and selling it at a quarter of the price. And they could not compete and they had to close down. So we lost our money, we lost the business, we lost jobs because of not dealing with the issues of crime and corruption. So it's important that you cannot achieve economic growth outside of fighting crime and corruption and capacitating your law enforcement agencies. So one of the issues that we think that as a matter of urgency, I think the minister will need to be communicated to him, that when he comes after the State of the Nation to give us the plans for the year, he must talk to this issue of General Laws Amendment Bill to specifically deal with issues of how the funding model, how can the SIU be able to recover monies and be paid monies due to the SIU, which now are standing at 619 million, because you can't have a situation where entities, provincial government, national governments and municipalities don't pay what they are supposed to be paying. And I think we must tighten the law, because I don't think that generally backing them is going to take us very far, because you are dealing with mostly people in the first instance who would not appreciate to be investigated. So they have no incentive to cooperate with you. So let's ensure that we tighten the law to ensure that all those municipalities, provincial governments, national governments, and entities, they pay their dues. And we can only do that by strengthening and tightening the law. So that should be done as a matter of agency. But we are highly encouraged, and it was very good to meet you on a Friday so that we can go to the weekend on a high spirit, being highly motivated by the work that you have done. Thank you very much to the SIU. Thank you very much to members for your questions. We are one of the institutions that we are proud of, not because we like you for your looks, we like you because of your work. Keep it up to all of you, and please share our sentiments to all your colleagues in the SIU. But we are also really worried that the more you become successful, and the more there will be more referrals to the NPA in particular and the Hawks, I think the more there will be serious dangers to your investigators and to your to the witnesses. So this issue is quite urgent, and it's not only the issue that must be dealt with by yourselves. I think it's a government problem. The NPA and everybody concerned should be involved in ensuring that we don't allow pushbacks in the fight against corruption, crime and corruption, by people who will intimidate witnesses and even intimidate investigators, because I foresee that the more you become successful, very soon your investigators are going to be under serious pressure and under serious risk. So we must start thinking about how will we create an environment where they can be able to act without fear, favor, or prejudice. Thank you very much, Advocate Mtibi.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
And to the Chair of the Audit Committee, I think it was a very good and comprehensive report. And thank you to everybody.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, Chair.
Bye-bye. Committee Secretary, is the next organization ready? Maybe before we proceed, members, do you think that we should take the next organization immediately, or we should break for 30 minutes so that members can eat, and then we take the two organizations without having to break?
Let's have a break, Chair, and then take them together so that we can get finished.
Yes, I know, because Honorable Breitenbach always assists me at the JSC when they want to bully me and not to have breaks, so that she always assists me because I know some members are not very well, so it's important to have lunch at the right time.
So it's a triangle. We thought it's Honorable Breitenbach and Janky. Now we see you also involved, Chair.
No, she's my senior counsel at the JSC. So can we meet at 1? Is that fair, members?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned until 1 o'clock.